And that's getting the beer cold as possible, as fast as possible. Reason being, as soon as that yeast is ready to go, the sooner it's up and going, the less bacteria can grow in your beer. Usually it takes about 6 hours for it to for it to really reproduce to a level where nothing can grow in it. And there's a couple ways to speed it up. The first is some people tend to kind of let it cool by just sitting out. I've had one guy come in here once and he's asked why he's got a corn kind of vegetable smell, that DMS. And we troubleshooted it for a while. It's like, leave the lid on while you boil this and that. And we couldn't figure it out until finally he came up and said, oh, well, it took me about 2 hours to cool it. Do you think that had anything to do with it? You got to cool it fast. I fill a bucket with...
It's okay. You can go for it.
Oh, you can go 40 minutes, just not 2 hours. But I like to get a nice bucket filled with some water and some ice. And put this in. It's called an ice bath. We have equipment called wort chillers. They're basically copper coils that you can immerse inside the pot. And you can run cold water through it. But if you're using one in Florida, you're going to have to run either the hose or another immersion chiller for some cold water. Because our taps really, unless you have like a really good tap system, it's not to be cold enough to cool your beer. The other thing I do, sure, could you come here and give me a hammer? Yeah. Just make sure this is all is I take some spring water, like such. If it's clean and in a gallon jug like this, it's food grade. There's no bacteria in it. It's pretty safe to open that real quick. So I can just pour it in. That's why I boiled less than 5 gallons for my 5-gallon batch. And since I've had this in the freezer with my ice, it's super ice cold, and it's going to get my beer down to temperature a lot faster than just waiting around and putting it in the bath. And some of my lazier customers, not lazy, but more efficient customers, take kind of an odd path, and they'll put bagged ice right into it. I can't tell you 100% to do it, because I don't know, it might give me an infection. This is how I've done it. But he said he'd never had a problem, and that's food grade. But I feel that if you could freeze one of these or get it close to freeze and just cut the thing open, it works just fine. You can get it cold in about 10 to 20 minutes. And now we're up to 5 gallons. Now we're going to prepare for our next step. I haven't brought this up yet, but this is called a hydrometer. And basically, it's going to measure the sugar level in your beer. The reason you want to know how much sugar is going to be. Before you ferment it, it's going to have a high level. After you ferment, it's going to go lower. When you compare the two numbers, you're going to know how much sugar your yeast converted into alcohol. Pretty important tool. You don't have to use it, but I suggest you do. Because it'll tell you if your yeast is done doing its job, if your yeast stopped halfway through perhaps, or if, oh my God, it's way lower than it's supposed to be, maybe I should take this off fermentation now. For the most part, that part will never happen. When you're using yeast, there's 2 types you can use. There's liquid and dry. I use the dry for a lot of beers, but if I'm trying to make like a Belgian or something really specific, I might have to use liquid to get a certain type of taste or character out of it. The liquids, they come in a little slap pack, and before you brew, you just slap it in, it releases a nutrient package, and the thing just blows up. So you know that your yeast is really already propagating. And because of that, liquids tend to act a lot faster than dry yeast would. But it's not necessary at all to use it. It really is preference. And like I said, there's 100 different types of yeast for 100 different types of uses. So it's really up to the brewer. And we're trying to get down to about 80 degrees right now. Mainly because of 2 things. Yeast does not do well in super hot temperatures, and it can die. And 2, I'm pouring into a glass carboy. Anyone not familiar with chemistry and thermal expansion, if you pour boiling water into a glass carboy, it's going to explode. So get it nice and cool first. You have to have it cool for the yeast to live anyways. Don't rush it on this part because no one wants to have a carboy blow up on it. And this is the one part, since I'm no longer boiling the water, at this stage in the brewing process, we have to be very careful about sanitation. Okay. Everything that touches it from this point on out has been in this bucket. Not that it hasn't been already, but now it's where it's really important. While it's boiling, it's less important because nothing can live in boiling water. Bacteria is not going to do very long. But when it's about 80 degrees, that's when bacteria can be at its healthiest. It won't be an issue if you use proper technique and keep things clean. Go over a couple pieces of equipment that we're going to use very soon. This turkey baster looking thing is called a wine beak. And all it's for is after I move my beer, filter it into here, I'm going to take samples of my beer. Beer's not going to go that high. And it works like, you know, when you hold your thumb over a straw. Okay? And that's how I'm going to do my hydrometer sample. And I suggest to you guys, taste your beer before it's fermented. Okay, you're going to know if something's off. It's not going to hurt you. It's going to be a little sweeter than it'll be when it finishes, and the hops will be a little sharper. But it does give you a good indicator of what your beer is going to taste like. Other pieces of equipment we have, funnel, can't live without it, because I'm going to be straining through. This device, it's called cardboard pack. The reason I'm using this, let me explain the other piece real quick. They go hand in hand. We have two pieces of equipment. We have this, which is called an airlock. There's usually a little floater thing right here and there. It's in my bucket somewhere. I just gotta grab it. Oh, it's funny. The reason you use this is while it's fermenting, you speed up your sugar. It's going to produce carbon dioxide and alcohol. The carbon dioxide is going to push all the oxygen out, which your beer doesn't like anyways. It's going to push the CO2 out. The problem is certain beers, like wheat beers, the steam beer I made on Sunday, if you leave this on and it clogs, you have a chance of it just kind of building enough pressure to blow the beer into your cylinder. Okay. And which
happened.
It happened on Monday. But if you have one of these up, you could put a tube right here and run into a little bucket of sanitized water and problem solved. Because if it starts blowing off too much, all it's going to do is go into the sanitized bucket. If anything goes back into it, it's at least sanitized. These are useful afterward, and the reason we use it is you look at it, the CO2 is going to come out, and it functions for two things. One, you know your yeast is still working because you can see it bubble. And two, nothing can get back into it because there's that layer of sanitized water. You will sanitize the water when you use it. So, very useful. You can't really make beer without an airlock. You can, but I suggest using it. Another couple things. If you have an explosive blow off, like I did, don't dump your beer out. I know a lot of people that say, oh, it blew up and it must be infected. If you don't know for sure it's infected, don't throw it out. Okay? Let it ferment. If your yeast has really already been active and reproduced at such a high level, bacteria might not be able to live in it. It's going to take up all that space. It's going to eat up all the oxygen and nutrients before anything can grow in it. So don't throw a batch out until you're sure it tastes bad. You know, some people say, oh, I did this wrong, so I dumped it. I did this wrong, and I dumped it. You spent time. You put some love and you put some time in it. Go ahead and let it finish, all right? And even if it tastes kind of off right when it's finished, time fixes beer a lot. Okay? Sometimes you might have a harsh taste to it that you don't like, and it'll go away very quickly. We are at 110 degrees. So we've already dropped a little over 100 degrees on this, which is great because there's been times where I couldn't drop it that quick. A couple ways to speed it up. You can put salt in the ice bath. Put salt on it. It'll go a lot faster. And you have to stir it. Because when there's boiling water in here, I've noticed a couple times when I've done this, what you're going to find is it'll be cold on the outside and the water directly near the pot is boiling hot. So if you're not stirring it, you're not transferring the heat, and you're not doing yourself any good. And up to this point, do we have anyone with questions? Sweet. It's a pretty easy process, right? Basically, just keep in mind, no matter how much I talk, and I can do a lot of it, all you're doing is boiling water. That's really it. You let it sit, you'll be good. There is one other rule. If you get ingredients with us, you are required to bring the sample back here. We're not alcoholics. We just like to know that you make good beer. It's important to me. And if you make it on a cake, bring it too.